Sometimes the best game of your life happens in somebody else's blowout. This is Warrior 47, Al Harrington, and the night he poured in 38 points against the Utah Jazz, November 3rd, 2007. Golden State arrived in Salt Lake City at 0-2, playing the second half of a back-to-back, and already seeing some of that shine come off the We Believe version of the team. The previous spring, the Warriors had shocked 67-win Dallas. Then Utah ended the party in 5 games in the Western Conference semifinals. 4 nights before this, sometimes the best game of your life happens inside somebody else's blowout. This is Warrior 47, Al Harrington, and we're talking about the night he poured in 38 points against the Utah Jazz, November 3rd, 2007. Golden State arrived in Salt Lake City at 0-2. They were in the second night of a back-to-back, and they're already seeing some of that shine come off the afterglow of the We Believe version of the team the previous year. The Warriors had previously shocked 67-win Dallas in the first round of the playoffs. Then Utah ended their party in 5 games in the Western Conference semifinals. Then 4 nights before this game, the Jazz also spoiled Golden State's Oracle opener and won 117-96. The Warriors followed that by going to LA, losing to the Clippers 120-114. They weren't what you'd call running back the same band. They weren't getting the band back together. Jason Richardson, he got traded to Charlotte on draft night for the rights to Brandon Wright, and Steven Jackson was serving a league suspension. This wasn't a must-win game in the mathematical sense. It was only game 3 of 82. But emotionally, I think it mattered. Was We Believe the beginning of something sustainable? Or had everyone just experienced one perfect spring? What did you think at the time? Did that Dallas series permanently change what you expected from the Warriors? Or were you still waiting for the whole thing to fall apart? Albert Harrington's born February 17th, 1980, in Orange, New Jersey. He became a star at St. Patrick High School in Elizabeth. He was one of the biggest names in the 1998 high school class. He won National Player of the Year recognition and skipped college to enter the NBA draft. Indiana took him 25th overall, and he was just 18 years old, 6'9", and still more possibility than finished product. He was also the first player born in the 1980s to be drafted into the NBA. It's one of those facts that makes a career feel like a bridge between 2 eras. And they called him Baby Al. It's not condescending, right? Early on, he mostly watched and learned. His first Pacers team was coached by Larry Bird. By his second season, Indiana reached the 2000 NBA Finals against Shaq, Kobe, and the Lakers. Harrington didn't have a major role, but he was getting a front row education in what serious professional basketball looked like. His game started opening up in 2001-02. He could score inside, he could face up from mid-range, and he could punch slower forwards off the dribble. Then a knee injury ended his season with 38 games remaining. He came back the next year and played all 82, and that tells you something about him. The injury interrupted his rise, but it didn't redirect him. By 2003-04, Harrington had become one of the league's best reserves. He averaged 13.3 points and 6.4 rebounds, finished second in 6th Man of the Year voting, and helped Indiana reach the Eastern Conference Finals. But he wanted a larger role, and the Pacers traded him to Atlanta for Steven Jackson. In Atlanta, Harrington became a full-time starter and a dependable scorer on a very, very bad team. He returned to Indiana in 2006, but the reunion lasted just about half a season. On January 17th, 2007, the Pacers sent Harrington, Jackson, Sarunas Jaskevicius, and Josh Powell to Golden State in the 8-player deal that shipped Troy Murphy, Mike Dunleavy Jr., and Ike Dioju to the Warriors. to Indiana. That trade helped unlock the we believe version of the Warriors. And Harrington was a natural Nelly big, strong enough to survive against power forwards, quick enough to drag them outside, and willing to fire from three before stretch bigs became standard NBA equipment. Do you think Harrington would be more valuable in today's NBA? I think he'd make more money, probably take more threes, and spend less time being treated like a tweener. Back then, tweener could sound like an accusation. Now it sounds like a job description. Don Nelson put Harrington back in the starting lineup to match Utah's size. Harrington guarded Carlos Boozer. Andres Biedrins drew Andrew Kirilenko. And Mikhail Petrius opened on Mehmet Okur. For about 6 minutes, that worked really good. Golden State jumped ahead 20-9. Harrington scored 12 points in the first quarter, including a dunk that gave the Warriors that 11-point lead. Golden State's hands were active, and Utah turned it over 7 times early. Boozer never established himself as the bully who'd wrecked the Warriors in the playoffs. Then Utah settled down. The Jazz closed the quarter on a 19-8 run and led by 1 point, 29-28. The second quarter was when the game got away. Golden State scored only 18 points while Utah scored 36, double. Gordon Gierczek came off the bench and hit everything he looked at. Deron Williams controlled the pace, and by halftime, the Jazz were up 65-46. Harrington had a dozen points at the break, but he'd barely played in the second quarter. In the third, Nelson turned him loose. Al scored 13 points in the third period and hit all 3 of his threes. The Warriors scored 35 as a team, but Utah kept answering and carried a 99-81 lead into the fourth. Then the game started to change shape. Golden State ripped off 12 straight points. Monte Ellis hit a jumper with 9:09 left, and suddenly it was 99-93. 23-point deficit had become 6. Harrington still cooking. The Jazz looked rattled, and for a minute there, the Warriors had summoned the frantic, dangerous version of themselves that everybody remembered. But that version couldn't stay on the floor. Williams took control. He made 7 of his final 8 shots and scored 16 points in the fourth quarter. Every time Golden State threatened, he got downhill or buried a jumper. Utah pulled away so quickly that when Nelson later was asked, he said he looked up when the margin was manageable, then looked up again and it was 18. The Jazz won 133-110. They shot 63% from the field, made 12 of 16 threes, and assisted on 36 of their 51 baskets. Williams finished with 30 points and 11 assists. Okur scored 28. Ronnie Brewer added 19, and Boozer was held to a quiet double-double, 12 points, 11 boards. Harrington scored 38, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. He went 15 for 20 from the floor and 6 for 8 from 3. He scored 26 after halftime, and his true shooting percentage was just over 89%. Yeah, there's something that's rude about a box score like that. 38 points on 20 shots should bring home a victory. It should come with a loud home crowd, the game ball, and teammates dumping Gatorade over your head, right? No, instead it's buried in a 23-point loss from the first week of November. And that's one reason I like doing this countdown. Winning teams preserve their own history. Losing performances need someone to dig them back up. Nelson praised his lineup. He praised the lineup change and said Harrington had responded extremely well. Harrington's answer was just 3 words. Wasn't good enough. That's the entire game right there. He didn't hide behind 38 points. He didn't say the Warriors were tired. He didn't point at Utah's ridiculous 63% field goal percentage. He knew the night had produced a great Al Harrington game and a lousy Golden State result. Baron Davis tried to sound a little more hopeful. He said, we're coming, while crediting Utah's ball movement and the stability of Jerry Sloan's system. Contemporary Bay Area coverage basically treated the night like a mixed report. The new matchups worked against Boozer. Harrington looked fantastic, and almost everything else was still busted. How do you judge a performance like this? Can a player genuinely have a great game when his team gives up 133 points? Or does the final score contaminate everything? Golden State's start got worse before it got better. They went to 0-6. Then Jackson returned and the team found a rhythm. They recovered so thoroughly that they finished 48-34. 6 wins better than the We Believe team. And they still missed the playoffs. It's not fair. 2008 Western Conference was savage. Every playoff team won at least 50 games, leaving Golden State 9th, despite being 14 wins above 500. That would have earned them home court advantage in the first round of the Eastern Conference. That's one of the strangest good seasons in franchise history. 48 wins, winning percentage near 600, and no postseason at all. Harrington played 81 games, started 59, and averaged 13.6 points and 5.4 rebounds. He made 37.5% of his threes, functioning as exactly the kind of floor-spacing big man that Nelson wanted. Utah finished 54-28, won the Northwest Division, and took the 4th seed in the West. The Jazz beat Houston in 6 games in the first round, then lost to Kobe's Lakers in 6 in the conference semis. The following season, Harrington's relationship with Nelson started to deteriorate. He played 5 games, then Golden State traded him to the Knicks for Jamal Crawford in November 2008. New York gave him room to score. Harrington averaged a career-best 20.7 points in his first Knicks season and 19.2 across his 2 seasons there. He later became a useful veteran scorer in Denver. Then he passed through Orlando as part of the Dwight Howard trade. He finished his NBA career with Washington, helping the Wizards reach the 2014 playoffs. Then he played briefly in China. Harrington retired in 2015 after 16 NBA seasons. He played 981 regular season games and averaged 13.5 points with 5.6 rebounds. He was never an all-star, but lasting that long while repeatedly adapting to new roles is its own kind of achievement. And his second career became larger than a ceremonial retirement gig. Harrington founded Viola, a cannabis company named for his grandmother, after seeing cannabis help relieve pain associated with her glaucoma. He remains the company's CEO, and Viola has made social equity and opportunities for Black and brown entrepreneurs central to its mission. So Al Harrington didn't just anticipate the modern stretch 4. He also became one of the more substantial athlete entrepreneurs of his generation. Next time we go into Yankee Stadium on May 11th, 2017, the Astros are protecting a 3-2 lead in the bottom of the 9th. Gary Sanchez singles into left. 1 run scores. Jacoby Elby comes around third with a tying run, and defensive replacement Jake Marisnick comes up throwing. No cutoff man, no bounce. No margin for error. Astro 72 is Jake Marisnick. Sometimes an entire game comes down to whether one throw stays true all the way from left field. Al Harrington gave the Warriors 38 points on 20 shots, dragged them back into a game that should have been dead, and walked away talking like the only number that mattered was the final score. That's Warrior 47. I'm Kevin. Thanks for stopping by. Maybe I'll see you next time.